Hello, hello, Rohit. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Rakshit?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for making time today, like coming to the podcast. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Of course, I had to do it for you, man.
No, I'm sure. I mean, like we've been moving back and forth on the dates and time and everything. Finally, we found time. I'm really glad we could do that.
Yeah.
But before we move into like what we're going to talk about today, why don't you tell the viewers like who you are, what's your story, and like everything. Like I mean, just a brief introduction about you, right?
All right. So, hi guys. I'm Rohit. I'm the co-founder of a media company called Barely Opinionated. The idea of Barely Opinionated is to basically use social media to share facts in a non-biased manner. So, what's happened? We started this back in 2020, October of 2020, because people had a lot of time during that time. Everyone was sitting at home and everyone was sharing their opinions without knowing what was actually happening. Right. So that's when we thought that why not share facts through social media so that people who are sharing their opinions first read about what is actually happening and then form an informed opinion on whatever the topic is. So that's my company, and as for my background, I have done my majors in marketing, and yeah, now I'm a creator, full-time creator, I would say.
Mhm. So, I mean, like, I was very curious about that as well. Like, you did your majors in marketing, and why did you want to become a full-time creator and not want to work and create at the same time? Like, I mean, what was the thought process there?
It was one out of course, the want to become an entrepreneur. I've been wanting to be an entrepreneur since my college days.
Mhm.
I finished my undergrad in 2019, and since then I've wanted to be an entrepreneur. I started with another venture of mine, which of course didn't work out very well. I tried doing it for about 3-4 months, and then I just left and I joined a job. That's one, and second is just out of the frustration for what I was doing at that point. So back in around October 2020, I was working somewhere else, and I absolutely like. Although that place taught me a lot of different things that I needed to know, I just wasn't happy with what I was doing,
Mhm.
and that was also the point when the creator economy was essentially taking off because of
Yeah,
COVID, right?
yeah.
Everyone was creating content, and me being a social media person was looking at all of it, and I wanted to do it. I was thinking of the different ways I can be a creator, right?
Mhm.
But then Instagram was the main platform that I was using, and then I saw that people are dancing, people are singing, people are making jokes, and I was not good at any of that,
Mhm.
right? But what I was good at was reading and understanding information and understanding data,
Yeah.
right? And I thought, how can I combine these two? And that's how Barely Opinionated was born.
Okay. So then, I mean, but didn't you ever want to like go and like, I mean, work at the same time? Because when did you this thing decide that, okay, yeah, I can do this full time, right? Like, I mean, when did the thought process even come up?
That thought process honestly took me about 2 to 3 months to before I quit my job. It took me 2 to 3 months to sort of conceptualize the idea of Barely Opinionated,
Okay.
right? And I'll be very honest. If I have to go back to the old Rohit and give him one advice, I would tell him that don't quit a job as of yet. First figure out how you're going to start, and then quit your job.
Uh,
But then again, the flip side is, if I didn't quit my job and I started Barely Opinionated, I
mm,
don't know if I would have enough motivation to be able to continue and reach where I am right now, right? Because when you have a plan B,
mm,
you lose, you lose the motivation to execute plan A to your fullest,
yeah.
right? And because I didn't have a plan B at that point, my plan A was the only plan, and I did whatever I could to make sure it works.
And where is it heading right now? Like, because you mentioned, like, I mean, you wanted to take Bally Opinionated to a place. Like, so
Hmm.
where is it going right now? And what was your, and where did you want to take it? Like, I mean,
The idea is to basically be omnipresent across different social media platforms, and of course reach the maximum audience,
okay.
right? We essentially call ourselves the new age media platform, right? We are trying to disrupt the way people consume news through traditional methods,
Mhm.
and we want to use social media to do it. And right now Instagram is our major platform, but our plan is to basically grow on different channels as well, right? So we if you see our Twitter, if you see our YouTube, if you see our LinkedIn, all of it is what we are trying to push this year. And our goal by end of this year, now we are known as the people with an Instagram page, right? But by the end of this year, we want to be known as content creators that are present across different platforms, and mainly on YouTube as well, because YouTube is a very big platform for us.
Mhm. And like, I mean, how are you planning to like crack into these platforms? I mean, like, are you going to redirect your Instagram audience to these platforms, or?
So we already redirect audience from Instagram, but again, the population or the audience itself is so huge that I can create separate audiences across different channels, right? But yeah, initial push is of course through Instagram, which we have already been doing for YouTube.
Mhm. No, that's interesting, man. I mean, I'll dive into that later. But before that, I had this like, I mean, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and it mentioned that you're a media consultant at the Hub. So
Hmm.
talk to me about like how did that happen? How do you get that? How do you get that gig? And what do you do?
It's actually a very interesting story. So
Uh-huh.
what happened was October 2020 is when I started Barely Opinionated.
Okay.
Exactly a year later, which is October 21, I got connected to the Hub Bengaluru.
Mhm.
Now the Hub is basically they started off as a co-living co-working space. Now they dove into the media side of it again during the lockdown itself, right? Because everyone was jumping into it.
Yeah.
And they had this thing called an entrepreneur in residence program where I could stay in their co-living space for 3 months. I could use their co-working space, all of it for free.
Yeah.
And in return, it was more of like a barter thing where I'm helping them with their content and their media strategy.
Mhm.
Right. And throughout these, so October to January, I was here. And throughout these 3 months, we realized the sort of synergies that both the companies had in on the media side of it, right?
Mhm.
Azan, who's the founder of the Hub, he also really loved what we were doing at Barely Opinionated.
Mhm.
And by the end of these 3 months, we were so interlinked that Azan essentially now is a co-founder at Barely Opinionated as
Wow.
well.
Okay.
And I'm a consultant at the Hub. So Azan, as a co-founder, helps us with our strategy, helps us with his network and everything else,
Uh,
and helps us build the business. While I, on the Hub side, help them build their strategy, help them with their content and social media approach.
it's very interesting, man. I'm very fan. Like, I'm very this thing was that I'm glad that how these things both of you could work with each other and like build that synergy, and also like, I mean, now how everything's interlinked also, right? Because I mean, I thought like, okay, like Badly Opinionated was born out of the Hub, because like, I mean, it's so interlinked right now whenever I look at these two, whenever I look at both of your channels. But now I realize, okay, this is what happened actually, right?
Correct, correct. So now both the companies are so interlinked that people confuse me to sometimes say, be a bigger part, like on the leadership role of
uh,
Hub, right?
yeah.
Some people have called me the co-founder of the Hub as well, right? So it's very interlinked, and yeah, I mean it's pretty good because what happens is Azan is building the Hub, I'm building Barely Opinionated, right? Now he has his learnings from his side of
Mhm.
being an entrepreneur and his side of being building a startup. I
Mhm.
have my learnings from being a entrepreneur, being a creator,
Mhm.
and building my own startup. And it's like we are doubling down on the way we learn things as well. We
Yeah.
always talk to each other and share our learnings,
Mhm.
right? So that the process becomes easier. I don't commit the same mistakes that he did. He
Mhm.
doesn't make the same mistakes that I did.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up learnings, because that was my next question as well. Like, I want to understand, like, what were your like? I mean, you've been running BO for like about like 3 years right now,
2.5 years,
and
yes.
a half years. So then, like, you must have had like some crazy amount of learnings. So, what are some of the learnings that stood out to you, and like that you'd like share as well?
Honestly, there is a lot.
Yeah.
You got to narrow it down, man. You
Make
got to narrow it down.
Give me three.
Give you three. Okay. One is that being a creator seems cool and all that, but then it's not. It's you your your life is controlled by algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, right? Your life is controlled by the social media platform you use. Your life is controlled by the algorithm of that platform,
Yeah.
right? So um and you're honestly, it's very easy for people to say that, don't look at the numbers, but then that's what
Yeah.
controls your life being
Yeah.
when you are a creator. So if someone is deciding to, remember that it's going to be a lot more of downs than it's going to be ups, and your emotions
Yeah.
are going to be controlled by how good your content does.
Mhm.
That's one. Second is, being an entrepreneur, kind of a cliche thing, but being an entrepreneur is a very lonesome journey. You don't have a lot of, like when you're working in a company, you have people around you, like, right? Like, say for example, Rakshit, in your case, right? Something has gone down, and say your manager just gives you a whole lot of shit for it, right? I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse?
And go for it. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So your manager has given you a lot of shit, right? But then you will have people in your team to sort of talk to it. I mean, talk about it, right? And you sort of have a learning experience from each other. Whereas being an entrepreneur, especially when you're just starting out, you're very alone. You don't know what life is going to be like. There are a lot of things that you don't see from others' journey, right? So you just have to be ready to deal with it, and you got to stop looking for external I mean, it's ironical to the first point, but you got to stop looking at external validation when it comes to the work that you're doing. You just have to be motivated and confident in yourself throughout the process. That's the second thing. And the third thing I would say is that try and build a community or a group for yourself. um, and another thing is, don't look at don't follow people and get jealous of them on social media. That is a big thing that I do, which is that I look at people's success. It's honestly, it's not even about success, but it's more about what the story that people revolve around them, right? LinkedIn, I mean, you work at LinkedIn, I'm sorry for dissing on LinkedIn, but then LinkedIn as a platform is all about, oh, I made 7 figures, I made 8 figures, I made 6 figures, XYZ, right? A lot of people, especially in my field, have that sort of content, right? And when people in the same field read that sort of thing, they obviously get demotivated, being like, wow, this lady or this guy is making 7 figures, 8 figures, I'm hardly able to do anything for myself. Which again can be very, very disruptive to your work and to your motivation. So ideally, the ideal thing to do is just to ignore it. It's difficult, but it's just about that.
So, I mean, like, since you mentioned about algorithms and numbers and everything, like, I mean, I had a follow-up question on that because, like, a lot of people, a lot of creators, what they do is they first build distribution and then they go for products, right? So, have you thought about that? Because that's a way like people move towards so that they can like move away from the algorithm and like just use the distribution network that they've built to eventually sell their products or make money out of that, and then like go ahead in that route, right? Have you thought about that? Like, or are you moving in that route?
So that's typically our plan as well, right? Right now we are working on our distribution, and the end goal is to say have a product, right? Now, the thing with that also is that if you look at a lot of these creators that started during my time itself, a lot of these people that I would say, that had really good talent, or I would say got lucky, have been able to build a vast distribution very, very quickly.
Okay.
Right? So they have been able to move from the distribution to the product phase quicker.
Yeah.
Right? In our case, we haven't been that lucky, I would say. Right? That's why ours is taking a lot longer than, say, a lot of other creators. Of course, if we had enough distribution, we would have had a product by now. But yeah, that's the journey that we're looking
What kind
at.
of product would Barely Opinionated have? Like, I mean, because since you're into media and news and everything, would it be like, say, because I was speaking to a friend of mine who manages a few influencers, and this thing was that he manages a creator who's into again news and everything, but in YouTube. So they are building a product around like something similar to InShots, but like in YouTube space and something like that's another thing, right? So I'm just curious, like, I mean, what would you guys be? I mean, I'm not sure, I'm sure like, I mean, you would have not thought, or you may have, but do you have anything in mind?
So, firstly, to comment on the first point, which is that having like a in shorts kind of thing, honestly, a lot of creators are trying to jump into that, right? A lot of creators are trying to build an app for their own content, which, in my opinion, wouldn't work
Yeah.
because it's just difficult to get people from one app to another. That's one. And second is for them to use it regularly, right? It's very, very difficult to do that. Even I have thought of the initial thoughts with that itself, but then I realized, and I saw that so many other people were doing the same thing. It didn't make sense, and a lot of them have already sort of collapsed, failed.
Yeah.
Our goal is to keep it very simple, right? So we have a bunch of things, like I have a bunch of things in mind, right? Like, for example, just as simple as building a game that makes you think, right? A game like a Monopoly or a game
Oh.
like a Uno, right?
Mhm.
These are things that would work really well with our audience, because we are we call ourselves a community of thinkers, right? We are the intellectual community, and anything intellectual based would work for us,
Mhm.
right? It's just about narrowing it down to a particular thing. But my aim is to look at a more of like a game, or something that makes you really think.
That's interesting, man. So, I mean, talk to me about like, since you're building a media company right now, talk to me about like what goes into building a media company. Like, what are the requirements or like must have and must not do's also? Like, I mean, what's been your experience there?
Must have is a very, you need a strong team to be able to build a media company, right? um Creators can build a media company if they have a good team and if they have a good brand to sort of go with, right? In our case, I started off with that,
Mm.
right? I started off directly with Barely Opinionated and not with Rohit, which is good and bad. I would say a lot more bad than good, because personal brand plays an important role here, which is what I'm trying to do now, which is to build a personal brand, right? So I mean, one thing that you definitely need to build a media, I would say new age media company, is a strong team. And second is a good understanding of the landscape of the different, first of all, platforms that you're using, which is in our case our social media platforms, and what other companies are doing as well, right? The research is very important, I would say.
And how do you stand out of the legacy brands? Because there are like big brands like say ET, Hindustan Times, etc. And there are also like, I mean, social media centric brands like Vox, Vice, etc. So I mean, how do you stand out if you're just moving in?
We are more, so I would say we are more similar to a Vox than say a Times of India,
Okay.
right? Because Times of India and Hindustan Times and all of that, they have Instagram channels with like million followers and all of that. But if you look at their content, the way they create their content is very traditional,
Mm.
right? That is not what the I would say young millennials and the Gen Z want to sort of consume their content, right?
Mhm.
That's not the way they want to consume their content. We are essentially creating content the way these young audience wants to
Mhm.
consume the content. That is why we are more similar to a Vox
Mhm.
than say Times of India.
Mhm. Nice, man. And like, what are your eventual goals with Barely Opinionated? Like, where do you want to take it? Like, where do you see it going
See,
eventually?
our North Star content now, when we create content on social media, is just a way to create build a distribution, right? Our idea is to have, of course, offline audiences, offline communities where people are able to engage themselves, like how you have book club meetings, right? Similarly, there should be meetings around the idea of being barely opinion. We call it being barely opinionated, which is essentially when you are barely opinionated, the idea is that you have your own opinions. That's completely fine, right? But you should be open to understanding different perspectives and listening to other people as well.
Mhm.
That's our vision, right?
Mhm.
And when you look at our North Star is to basically, I would say, I would say that we have made it when say we are able to organize like presidential style debates with our politicians, right?
Oh.
Because that doesn't happen in India. You see it in US, right? You have the two presidential candidates that will come together, discuss on different issues. That doesn't happen here. You have television style debates where people are shouting at each other, which honestly doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
So as barely opinionated as the people that are sharing facts, we want politicians or our future leaders to come together and talk about what they want to do for the people of the country.
And but that's like changing the fundamental structure of like the thing of how things are done in the country, right? Like, I mean, I'm assuming this would be like a 20, 30 year down goal and not like an immediate goal, right?
Exactly. That's why I said North Star. That's when I would be like,
Yeah.
yes, we have made it. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know how likely it is that we'll be able to do it, right? We are able to, I mean, we are trying to do it at a micro level where we are trying to get the MLAs at least, right?
Mhm.
Of our constituency together to sort of discuss and debate amongst themselves,
Mhm.
right? But getting to a higher at a national level is going to be very challenging.
I know. I mean, but then it's a thought that counts, right? Like, I mean, like as long as you're trying to go there, even if you don't now, and if you do it eventually, that'll be fantastic if that happens.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, now let's get back to like your content and your this thing, your content creation. Talk to me about like your creative process. Like, how do you come up with ideas and research? Because I'm sure your content in revolves around like since it revolves around the news and everything, it involves a lot of research, a lot of data going behind and everything. So, what's your creative process there?
So first thing when it comes to creating content is identifying the topic, right? Which
Okay.
in our case is not that difficult because we rely on the news or the current events that's happening or what's trending,
Hmm.
right? So identifying topics is not that difficult.
Mhm.
Even then it gets a little difficult to understand what's real and what's not, right? Because we don't want to talk about the fluff. We don't want to talk about like Bollywood actors, actresses having this, that, right? And we don't want to talk about this politician said this politician said that. We want to get straight to the point,
Yeah.
right? So topics, fine. Second comes when it comes to research, right? We fortunately we have a very strong team of researchers,
Mhm.
right, that spend hours into, say, if we put out at least 4 pieces of content every day,
Okay.
right? And each piece takes about 5 to 6 hours of research. Now
Mhm.
when it comes to research also, it depends on the sort of publication that is talking about it, right? You have your left wing publications, you have your right wing publications, right? So what we essentially do is we merge the information that exists in all of these different publications, right? We at least look at 6 to 7 different publications, look at what is the point of information that is common, which
Mhm.
is what essentially becomes a fact,
Yeah.
right? Now say for example, Bangalore is at a 30 degrees Celsius,
Mhm.
right? Now one can be like, Bangalore is at 30 degrees Celsius, which is a fact, right? One publication will be like, climate change is real. Bangalore is at 30 degrees Celsius in February. 10 years ago, it was at like 25 degrees Celsius, whatever it is, right? That becomes one side of it. Second side of it will be, Bangalore last year was 40 degrees Celsius at this time. Now it's 30 degrees
Yeah.
Celsius. So it's an improvement, right? So
Yeah.
different, but at the end of the day, the fact is Bangalore is 30 degrees Celsius,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that is how it's sort of the information sort of, we try to clear out the opinions that are being put out by different publications and just put out the fact that okay, Bangalore is 30 degrees Celsius, that is what you need to know. Now form your own opinion. We'll give them data of, say, what happened last year, what happened 10 years ago, and let them form their own opinions or an own analysis.
Mhm. No, that's interesting, man, because like I mean, you are essentially like you're not the first people to break the news, but you're the first people to like make sense of the news, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. That's quite interesting. And like, how do you differentiate yourself from like others who are also doing similar things? Like, I mean, who are breaking news or like who are this thing was that creating similar content? Like, how do you, to a layman audience, like, how do you differentiate yourself? Like, what do you do? That way.
That's a great question. And when it comes to distinguishing between different publications, right? First of all, I honestly would say that there is no other media company that is creating content the way we do,
Mhm.
right? That is one for a fact. Second is that a lot of loyalty to, say, a particular page or a particular company also relies on the personality of the brand itself,
Yeah.
right? People don't necessarily say follow a Vox or follow a Times of India or follow a Hindustan Times just for the information that they're putting out.
Yeah.
It's also the sort of personality
Yeah.
that goes behind the brand, which can be linked to the faces of the brand, which
Mhm.
can be linked to the culture of the brand,
Mhm.
right? So essentially the people that rely on us are not just coming for the information, but it's also the way we deliver the information, first of all. Second of all, is the sort of culture we try to maintain with the whole branding of our page, right? And the way we try to connect to the people, which is through our personality,
Mhm.
right? And because I am a lot on the page, I am the face of the page, a lot of it also depends on my I would say my personality as well,
Yeah.
right? um a lot of people may like my personality, a lot of people may not like my personality, right? Even if people like the information we are giving, if people don't like me or my personality, they would definitely just unfollow,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I mean, people can give the same piece of information can be given by 10 different people, but it's about how are you delivering that information and what is the personality behind that information,
Mhm.
right? Are you a serious person, are you a calm person, are you a funny person, right? Various things.
Yeah. And so then I mean, like how that's so you differentiate yourself by via your personality, if I'm getting this right, and
Correct.
via the way you present your content,
Correct.
right?
More of the way we present our content, and then comes the personality or the culture of our brand.
Mhm. Since you mentioned about like your personality and everything, like I mean, my next question is like a straight follow up towards that. Like you've had good experience like in speaking, public communication, storytelling, etc., and you do a lot of storytelling in your videos as well. So how did you build the skill? Like I mean, and like, and do you have any tips for people who are trying to build the skill as well?
I honestly like, so I've had public speaking experience since college.
Yeah.
I've been into debating, I've been into doing MUNs. So I've had a knack for being able to speak publicly,
Mhm.
but being able to tell stories, being able to act, right, in videos. Like even when even when I'm talking right now,
Yeah.
there could be various ways of me talking, right? I could just be like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I could just keep giving straight one word answers. I could just be
Yeah.
very lazy and very low,
Uh-huh.
right? But then for me to be able to talk with expressions, talk with personality, all of that only comes with experience, I would say, right? And for me to be able to, I would still wouldn't classify myself as a good storyteller. I'm still learning and understanding how to tell good stories,
Mhm.
right? And that is something that I'm learning on the job. As I've started Barely Opinionated, I'm in the process of learning,
Mhm.
right? Like when we started Barely Opinionated, we didn't directly start with video. We
Yeah.
started with creating static posts and carousels,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Video only, like heavy videos came into picture only like about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And since about a year and a half, I've been creating one video, at least one video every single day,
Mhm.
right? If you look at 2022 in general, I would have created at least a good 600. I would have been in at least a good 600 videos between long form and short form videos, right? So it's just about learning on the job, learning from experience. And if I have to give, if I have to give tips to people to become good in front of the camera,
Yeah.
one is, again, practice speaking, practice talking. Whenever you're talking to your friends, whenever you're talking to your family, just try to add a little bit of flair, a little bit of expression to your voice. That helps a lot. Second is record yourself and see how you look in front of the camera,
Mhm.
right? um I would say I still look like an idiot in front of the camera a lot of the times, right?
Okay.
But fortunately, I
Uh,
have a good video team,
uh,
or a good camera person who sort of guides me and tells me ki yaar ye mat kar, ye kar, you're looking like a, an idiot. So it's just about looking at yourself. When you do it and you record yourself and you look at yourself in the camera, you understand, okay, this is where I went wrong, maybe I can do this, this is what will change,
Mhm.
right? I think these are the two things that I would say will help you become good in front of the camera. And when it comes to good storytelling or creating good content, it's about consuming good content as well.
Mm.
There is a rule of thumb, right? 80% consumption, 20% creation, right?
Yeah.
80 the content that you consume is what you're going to create as well. And throughout the last 2 years, I have learned to consume, even if I don't want to. I have forced myself to consume good creators and good content. That, okay, good content again is subjective, but what I feel is good content
Yeah.
essentially. And I try to borrow and replicate the same sort of thing, same sort of style in my content as well.
No, I loved your first point, of course, like about like record, like learning on the job, like
Mm.
right, because that's something that I've been doing as well. Like, so I've been doing Brew Market like for videos, especially from September properly. Like, I mean, having videos and on YouTube and everything, right? So I've seen how my communication skills via reels and even on these podcasts and everything's have improved drastically big on the job. And like this thing, and from if I look back how I was a year ago and how I am today, I can see that change, I can see that difference, right?
And you have been killing it with video content as well. I've been seeing your LinkedIn.
I've been trying things out. Yeah, off late I'm just like picking up my phone and be like, three tips.
That's amazing. And I honestly love that, because I saw it and I was like, amazing. This is what people need to do, and this is what you're doing. So that's amazing.
Thanks, man. And then your second point also about the 80-20 rule, 80% consumption, 20% creation. Love that as well, because what you consume, because you get to learn, because I believe you can't just keep creating, you got to learn as well, and the best way to learn is by consuming good content and seeing what they're doing well. There'll be people who can narrate stories well, people who can record, edit well. So you get to learn all of these things by consuming, and that too consuming well good content, right?
And it's like a traditional saying, right? You are what you eat, right? That's for your physical body. When you're like, you are what you eat, it's
Mhm.
essentially the same thing for your content as well. You
Mhm.
create what you consume.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. Love those points. Love those points. And tell me about this thing. So you mentioned about like some of your learnings that you had as a entrepreneur and everything. So tell me, what's one learning, one major learning that you've had as a creator?
One major learning as a creator, again, difficult to narrow down. I would One thing that I would definitely say is, just, I mean, it's cliche, but just create. That's the only thing I would say, right? um you just need to create and figure out what suits you. You
Mhm.
cannot create content like just because someone else's content is working, just because something else is working, that doesn't mean that you also do the same thing just for the sake of it, right? Because unless you like the content you are creating, you're not going to be able to create more and more content,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So that's a very difficult thing that I've had to learn. I'll give you an example, right? Because when we the create content that we create revolves around social, business, governance affairs, right? And that also sort of, also in an umbrella sense, also has financial content as well, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at all of these influencers, a lot of them are huge
Yeah.
because they are talking about, here's how you can make $1,000, here's how you can save XYZ, here's how you can pay less taxes, right?
Uh-huh.
I can do the same thing on the
Yeah.
page and I know that it will do well for me, it will help me reach more people.
Uh-huh.
But that's not what I want to do, that's not what the page is for,
Mhm.
right? So as a content creator, you just need to realize what is the content that you want to create,
Yeah.
and what do you think you are proud of,
Yeah.
right? Would you want to go out, talk to people and tell them, yes, this is the content I'm creating, right? If you're not able to do that, if you're ashamed to show people your content, then
Mhm.
you're not doing then you're not creating the right side type of content, I would say.
Love that. Like, I mean, create content for you and not for the trend, right?
Exactly. Exactly, create content for you, but also understand if that content has a market fit or not.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, but then to be honest, like today in today's day, I've seen pages which just share quotes and they're like having 1 million followers. So I can't really say if a particular content is a market fit or not. It's about like again, there's other factors.
Honestly, different strokes for different folks, but then the if you have to look at it as a marketer, you have to look at a lot of data, right? And a very simple data is the population. Forget about population of the world, population of India, 1.4 billion,
Yeah.
right? Out of that, there are 800 million people that are using internet,
Yeah.
right? Out of that, there are about 300 people say that are using Instagram,
Hmm.
correct? And of course, now that I'm just talking about Instagram right now,
Got
there
it.
are, when you look at YouTube, a huge chunk of, now okay, YouTube, when you have to look at data for YouTube as well, you have to look at data of how many people are using Android phones,
Mhm.
right? Say, I think, I don't know the latest data, but as far as I remember, last point of data was that 70% of India's population, I think it's more, but I think 70% of India's population uses Android phones.
Yeah.
Every Android phone comes with pre-installed YouTube,
Yeah.
right? So that many people have access to YouTube. It's a
Mhm.
huge number,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And then you, of course, you got to break down in terms of language, what sort of language you're using.
Mhm.
Now, say for example, instead of English is the common language that a lot of creators use. Now, if you look at, when you go towards Hindi or even like other regional languages, say for example, Kannada or
Yeah.
Tamil, right? There is lesser penetration of creators in those languages. So if you're able to say be the first mover in those languages, then there's nothing that can stop you,
Mhm. Are you
right?
planning
So
to move into those languages as well, like in Barely Opinionated?
we definitely are, not at this point, of course, because we don't have the bandwidth, but we are. And now that AI has come into the picture, it's making things a lot easier also.
Mhm. Do you intend to like, I mean, I'm just asking this, do you intend to like take funding and like move into all these areas? I mean, I don't know if you've already taken any funding, or are you bootstrapping it, or like what the scene is, but then do you intend to do that?
As of now, we are completely bootstrapped, 100% bootstrapped.
Mm.
Um, if you had to ask me, no, we don't want to take any funding.
Okay.
But again, business environment can change anytime. Anything can happen at any time, and you may
Why
have
don't
to
you
take.
want to?
You need to do what's best for the business, right? So if say 2-3 months later something happens and the best for the business should pick up funding from somewhere, then we have to do that. But our goal is to not pick up any funding as of now.
Why not? Why not? At the moment, why don't you want to?
See, our goal is to not build a unicorn or have high valuation. Our goal is to create good content and just sustain ourselves. My
Okay.
goal is not to become like a Baiju or like a Kunal Shah or anything. No, I do not have any intentions. I want to live a peaceful life
Yeah.
where I'm able to dictate. If I want to wake up at 11 a.m., I should be able to wake up at 11 a.m. If I want to hire XYZ person, I should be able to hire XYZ person. I shouldn't have someone else telling me that no, you cannot hire them, or you need to do this, right? If you look at a lot of these startups now, right, a lot of them have to take actions based on what the investors are telling them.
Yeah.
They cannot, even if the founder feels like no, this move may not be the right move, they still have to take it based on what their investors are telling them.
Yeah.
Right, which is not where we want to be.
No, fair enough. I mean, I like the thought. This is not even in the flow. I just wanted to ask you personally from like our conversation. So before we end, I'd like to ask you, like, I mean, you said you consume a lot, right? Like 80-20 rule. So what are your favorite, this thing was that creators that you'd like to, this thing that you like to follow and consume content from?
First is one I want to talk about is this guy called Prakhar Ke Pravachan. Have you heard of him?
No, I have not.
Okay, so he's a YouTube first creator. That guy talks about philosophy and literature and everything under the sun. He basically shares his opinion on different things, right? The reason I love his content. He's one of my favorite creators is because um of the way he talks, of the way he communicates,
Yeah.
right? He When you look at his videos, you just his personality and the way he talks is just so charming.
Yeah.
That you cannot stop yourself from listening to what he's about to say. Right, even if it's utter crap, I just like listening to him, and I've learned a lot about how to talk to people, how to communicate, and how to be in front of the camera from him. And not to flex, but I met him like a week ago
Oh,
randomly
wow. Okay.
at someone's house, which
Okay.
was a I had to keep calm because there are a lot of other bigger people there. But when I met him, I honestly told him, I was like, bro, I've learned a lot about communication from you, so thank you
Yeah.
so much and stuff. Which
Wow.
was a big deal for me. I wouldn't say he's the biggest creator, right? He's got about like a
Uh-huh.
200 or 300 k subscribers on YouTube. If I'm sorry, I'm not sure of his numbers, but I think it's about that much. So I wouldn't say he's the biggest of the biggest creators, but it's just the uniqueness of his content creation, which I really love.
Yeah.
That is one. Second, I would say is um I have learned like, okay, when it comes to informational content, there are various creators that I look at, and I cannot remember any particular name. There's this none there's the other guy called Tirthak Saha. I don't know if
Yes.
I've heard of
Yes.
him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at his YouTube, if you look at his Instagram short content, it's so well structured. The way he tells stories is just amazing, mind blowing.
Yeah.
How he does it, I don't know, but the way he does it is very inspirational, and I love him as well.
Yeah.
And third is I've learned. Okay, so I've this might be controversial, but I follow this guy called Logan Paul. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I have, of course.
He's not a creator, I would say, from my genre, or the sort of create. It's very different, right? He's a lifestyle based creator, I'm a topic based creator and stuff. But when I was starting out, I used to watch a lot of his content as well, just to understand how to tell a story and how to keep people retained in your content. The retention of it, very important, right? And I've learned a lot about how to carry yourself as a creator, what you need to do to become a creator, the hustle behind being a creator, right?
Yeah.
Because when you talk to people who have just heard of Logan Paul, they'll be like, yeah, he's just some other guy from YouTube and he's been in controversy in XYZ, right? But if you actually get to know his work ethic, if you get to know the amount of effort that he needs to put to be able to reach where he is right now, it's a lot,
Yeah.
right? And that is what I look up to.
No, I
So
mean,
yeah, these
I love his this thing within marketing skills as well. The dude can like make
exactly.
money. He can make money out of nothing, literally. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what, right? Just these three people, if you look at just the content in general, the content is not what I create. They are not talking about what's happening in India, what's happening around the world. One guy is talking very well to his audience. One guy, creating stories and really high level stories.
Yeah.
And the third guy is a brilliant marketer.
Yeah.
Rakshit, are you there? Can you-
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And the third guy is a brilliant marketer and a brilliant hustler, right? All three doing different things, not creating the content I create, but there are still lessons for me to learn in the content creation journey and in the entrepreneurial journey that I am in.
Perfect, man. I mean, I like, yeah, this makes sense. It's not about like, you're not learning, like, I mean, per se from based on your content, but you're learning with respect to like how to get better as like how to make your craft better, right?
It's
Essentially,
about this different skills that you're able to pick up from these
skills
people.
in your craft, how to make that better, right?
Correct. Correct. Exactly.
Love that, man. I mean, I'm glad we could end at this note. Like, I mean, a very inspiring and also a positive note. I mean, yeah, I had a lot of fun like having you here today, and I got to talk to you in length about your journey, your creation, and what you do. And I hope I could help you. I mean, I could have this good conversation with you as well. But yeah, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope this was good.
It was.
So yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Rakshit.
Thank you so much, man. All right, I'll see you guys on the next podcast. See you.
Tada.
Bye.